Ladies and gentlemen, her.
Okay, so if you're a huge fan of Taylor Swift, like me, the title of this video will either make you feel extremely validated or extremely offended. Such is the polarizing power of Taylor's 6th album, Reputation. However, if you're not all that familiar with Reputation, not to worry, because this video isn't going to go in depth about the cultural impact of the album, and it's not going to be about the change in Taylor's sound or image. This video is about Reputation being considered Taylor's worst album, at least according to the world's most trusted review site, Metacritic. You see, Reputation was a hugely successful album, and it received a ton of praise upon its release. But due to a few very, very specific faults in the music review industry, according to Metacritic, it is Taylor's worst album. Believe me, I was shocked. In case you didn't already know, Reputation is my favourite album by Taylor. It had such a huge impact on me and my songwriting that I actually had a gigantic canvas made of the album artwork, which is still in my living room today. So you can imagine that I was horrified to see my favourite album at the very bottom of the list. And I just had to dig a bit deeper to find out why. So, without further ado, let's delve in and begin with the most overwhelming reason. So, the original concept for this video was going to be me ranking every Taylor Swift album from worst to best, according to the internet's #1 source for aggregated online reviews, Metacritic. Metacritic has been a trusted source for submitted reviews of films, music, and video games for the past 20 years, collecting scores from critics' reviews across the internet and compiling them into one big average score for each piece of work. Metacritic splits the reviews into 2 categories: critic reviews and user reviews. Whilst anybody can leave a review for a film or an album, the critic reviews are collected by Metacritic themselves from sites they deem to be high-quality websites, which in itself establishes a sense of bias, but I suppose with a website built in this format, that is unavoidable to some degree. The issue comes down to the fact that not all review websites grade on a simple scale of 1 to 10, or give a score out of 100. One such website, which is approved by Metacritic, is consequence.net. When looking into how Reputation could have possibly gotten such a low score on Metacritic, I went through the approved critic reviews, and right down the bottom, with a score far lower than any other site, was Consequence, which gave Reputation a score of 33 out of 100. Ouch. How was Consequence such an outlier? Other sites that gave their reviews of Reputation issued scores of 80, 70, even 60. But 33? Who would score an album 3.3 out of 10? So, I dug a bit deeper. I had to read this scathing review to try and understand how this happened. When I clicked to read the review by Consequence, the answer was right in front of me. A big, fat D+. Consequence didn't give their score in numbers. They use a score system likened to the US academic grading system. And when you look up what a score of D+ would be in numerical percentage, a D+ is actually the equivalent of 68%, not 33%. This is much more in line with some of the lower but still reasonable reviews for Reputation. But for some reason, Metacritic translated Consequence's scoring system to an entirely different numerical rating. In fact, the writer of the review, Jeff Nelson, has gone on record confirming this, while still maintaining his disdain for the record. He seems nice. Now, clearly, Reputation isn't the only piece of work that has faced this issue, as Metacritic's FAQ section on their website has paragraphs dedicated to discrepancies with scoring systems. And there's even a part where they state that Metacritic staff members read every approved review and are free to use their own discretion to alter a critic's score if they think the reviewer has been too generous. What on earth am I reading here? So whilst the critic who scored Reputation a D+ has gone on record stating his score should be a 68, and whilst Metacritic say they assign scores to reviews that don't use a normal numerical scale, it's still a 33. The issue with all of this is that there really isn't a perfect solution. Metacritic aren't going to change the way they convert grades, especially as I'm sure that there are hundreds of reviews that have used their system. And even if it was feasible, I really can't see Metacritic, the biggest online review aggregator, doing so. It also wouldn't be fair for Consequence to alter this one review of Reputation to fix this skewed score on Metacritic. If you change the review to something like a B- just to correct Metacritic, that wouldn't be fair on every other review on Consequence. And why should their site have to change their entire rating system just because Metacritic convert their grades differently? With that being said, there is a section on Metacritic's site that says a reviewer can contact them directly to get a score reflected. So, guess it's down to you, Jeff? Jeff? I don't think Jeff's going to go out of his way to do that. Call it a hunch. I suppose the easiest solution that doesn't involve Jeff having to get his score altered would be that due to the difference in what a D+ grade means to both sites, perhaps Consequence shouldn't appear as an approved publication. I can't imagine how many other albums have suffered from this discrepancy, perhaps not only from a Consequence review, but other sites that also don't follow Metacritic's strange grading system. But when you start arguing for certain sites to be discounted and struck off, you're entering into a debate that I really don't want to have. Also, one more thing before we move on to my next point. Another reason I couldn't make my original video idea of ranking all of Taylor's albums according to Metacritic is because for some reason, her debut album, released in 2006, simply isn't on there. I have no idea why. It was released years after Metacritic was created. Were there just no online reviews? Is there only a certain time frame that reviews can be submitted in? There is a huge page on Metacritic about their rules, criteria, etc. And you have to wonder, for a site that on the surface simply collates other people's data, why is there so much put in place to get these sites to fall in line? And for a site with so many flaws, and let's be real, no site like Metacritic will be absolutely perfect, is it time that we as consumers just stop giving them so much weight in terms of reliability? Perhaps so. After the shock of blowing this Metacritic Consequence case wide open, she says sarcastically, I decided to peruse through some more reviews of Reputation. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't on a mission to read every critique and hunt down the reviewer to fight them over their opinions. Some people just genuinely don't like or understand Reputation. That is absolutely fine. However, one review by Pitchfork, a highly revered publication in regards to music, gave the album a 6.5 out of 10. That's pretty damning. I will say, having read the review in full, it isn't all incendiary, and author Jameson Cox does make some valid points. However, as Reputation fans will know all too well, this album is often grossly misunderstood by those who don't care to dig deeper into the meanings behind each song. The album actually tells a story about Taylor falling in love whilst the media, celebrity foes, and the general public all turn their back on her. This review by Pitchfork completely misses this, primarily covering the songs that focus on the narrative of karma and revenge. And here's the thing with that. On first listen, possibly even the first few listens, that's what the album is seemingly about. It's easy to miss the carefully crafted odes to her partner because they've been cleverly woven into the fabric of Taylor being a pop culture villain until you sit with the songs for a little while. And this is something that reviewers for big music publications and news sites simply cannot do. It all comes down to one word: relevancy. Always remember, big name websites that focus their content on music, film, video games, etc. are businesses. What do businesses like? Money, 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 money. The more clicks they get, the more they earn from advertisements and paid promotions, and the more money they earn. Now, there are two simple ways for these websites to gain more traffic. One, post a review or article that is so controversial that it gets shared far and wide across the internet, leading to more clicks and more angry shares. But many websites that actually care about being cited in the long term and regarded as reputable sources won't tread this path all that often. The other, less controversial way to get those mighty clicks is posting about things that people are talking about at the time. As soon as a big name album is released, be it Taylor, Adele, Ed Sheeran, Ariana Grande, the first day or two after the release is the peak time for reviews to come out. As albums are very rarely leaked to reviewers early in this day and age, Critics are often left to wait with the peasants before they can hear it and make their judgment. This means that as soon as it hits midnight for a big release, it is the job of these critics to refresh Spotify, Apple Music, whatever, and get to work. They'll have a day, possibly two at best, to craft their review of the entire album before posting it to capitalize on the relevancy of that release. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever listened to an album because a friend recommended it, but upon first listen you just didn't get it? What's the hype about? This isn't even that special. I'm not gripped by this. Have you ever then, over a period of a few days or weeks even, heard tracks from the album again and felt the album start to grow on you? Not every album is a smash from first listen. I personally think Reputation is, but a lot of people didn't. It was such a change in sound that the album threw a lot of people. But what if your first impressions were the only ones that get put onto a page for the world to read, without awkward retractions being made retroactively? Before 2014, I didn't understand Taylor Swift at all. I admit, I was one of many who made jokes about her dating life, thought she was overrated, and anything before Shake It Off, I used to just roll my eyes because I was not like other girls. Pick me, pick me, pick me. Then one day, I just got it. I was able to venture into her back catalogue and appreciate it. I could hear what I'd been missing out on. But if I were to go on record for my first opinions, and my first opinions only, my reviews would be close-minded and ignorant, or at the very least, very different to how they read now. Reviewers for big publications aren't given the opportunity to let an album sit and grow on them. And even if they do then retract their scores years down the line, they rarely request an alteration, and it's not as though a change in score would generate a ton more clicks. Saying that, let's now go back to that Pitchfork review of 6.5. Jameson Cox, the critic behind the review, has gone on record stating that Reputation should now be awarded an extra 2 points, taking it up to an 8.5 or 85 on Metacritic. Now, Jameson has deleted this tweet for some reason, but Jameson, dearest, the internet is forever. And now for my big dramatic conclusion. So despite the average on Metacritic currently sitting at 71, I added the scores together and divided by 28, which is the number of critic reviews, and it came out at 68.5. So that's what it should be on the website. Now, if we were to take the Consequence review of 33 and bump it up to a 68, as it should be, and adjust Pitchfork's review to 85 instead of 65, which it should be, it takes the average up to... what? 70.5? 70.5? Somehow lower than the actual present day score on Metacritic. Well, that wasn't exactly the result I was looking for. So what have we learned? Nothing? Well, not quite. I think we've at least proven that Metacritic, the often cited and most trusted source for reviews, has its problems. But then, is the impact of critic reviews waning, with a generation more likely to trust their peers on social media for honest reviews? Let me ask you this, and please let me know in the comment section below. Do you personally take critic reviews into account when thinking of getting a game or listening to an album? Do you head to Metacritic, or do you seek out a specific site like Pitchfork or IGN? And let me know if you agree with Reputation's standing as Taylor's worst album. For me personally, Reputation will always have a special place in my heart. And you know, I might make a separate video about its personal impact on me in the future. In the meantime, please leave a like if you enjoyed, or let me know how I can improve in future videos. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I shall catch you later.